Hey everyone, this is going to be a skin blending tutorial. This particular portrait has a light peachy skin tone with some shadows, which I'll try to explain the blending process for. I start off with a base layer of a light peach shade. This is burnt ochre 10% in the Caran Luminance pencils. For the inner crease of the cheek, I used a little bit of brown ochre for the shadow, along with a light pink shade, and the darkest shade is burnt sienna. I will then begin layering over the base layer of the burnt ochre 10% peach tones with a white colored pencil. And here I have increased the pressure with the white colored pencil to smooth everything out. For paper, as I've mentioned before, I use the Starthmore 500 series Bristol plate surface. This has a very smooth surface, which is great for smooth blending with colored pencil or graphite. For the shadowed area of the nose, I will begin layering over with a color called Burnt Sienna 10%. It's a darker pinky peach shade, along with a color called Burnt Ochre, which has a more orangey tint. Here I'm using a little bit of a color called Perylene Brown to darken up the inner corner. For shadowed areas such as this, I like using horizontal strokes with the colored pencils to smooth everything out and blend the colors together. The shadowed portion of the face with the darker tones gets a bit trickier because it requires more layering. I start off with a shade called Burnt Sienna 50%. And here I have a pretty light touch. I'm not pressing too hard with it. I just want a light layer to start off. I will then begin layering over the Burnt Sienna 50% with a lighter shade, which is Burnt Sienna 10%. Here I'm pressing with a medium pressure, and that's beginning to blend together with the Burnt Sienna 50%. And to bring out the color more accurately of the shadow, I'm using a color Burnt Ochre. It has the orange tint. And that's layering over the Burnt Sienna 50% and Burnt Sienna 10%. For the inner portion, I'm using Burnt Ochre 10% to blend those colors together. And once again, to blend the shadow area together with the lighter part of the face, I'm using Burnt Sienna 10%. And I'm repeating the same drawing process for the shadowed area of the outer part of the face and blending that together with the other layers. And I'm using burnt sienna 50% to further blend those dark colors. Once you have a lot of layers down, it's important not to press too hard or else it will begin to lift the color off and it's hard to correct that. Here when I'm using the burnt sienna 50%, I'm not pressing very hard. I just want to use a light touch which helps blend the layers I already have down without taking off the color. Here I'm using burnt ochre once again with the slight orange tint to add more color to the shadowed area and further keep blending. And here I'll layer over with a touch of the pink colored pencil. Once I have the color down pretty much how I want it, to darken up the area a little bit or to smooth things out more, I will use horizontal strokes with a darker colored pencil such as burnt sienna or burnt sienna 50%. Once you have a lot of layers down, I find that it's helpful to use horizontal strokes to not lift the color off, like I mentioned before. And once again, I have a very light touch. I don't want to press too hard or else it will create those holes and take off the color. I'll often use a lighter colored pencil shade or a white colored pencil to smooth out the lighter areas of the face. It can take a lot of practice to get the hang of blending darker skin tones together and figuring out what shades work well together. I definitely didn't get it right the first time I started layering with colored pencils, but once you keep practicing, you can develop a technique and you will have a better understanding of the colors and layering process. And that's all I have for today. If you have any questions about blending with skin tones, let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.